News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from SoonerScoop.com. Now, here's the entire SoonerScoop crew. Carey, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is the unofficial 40 podcast from SoonerScoop.com. It's the OG edition. Josh McQuistion, Eddie Radosevich, Carey Murdoch here. Kind of a lot of stuff going on with camps this week. You've been seeing, hopefully, the YouTube stuff that we've been doing either with Jordy Bahl or the camp recap yesterday, which is a lot of fun doing. And might be kind of a State of the Union thing because I will say this, like, just kind of starting out, I was talking to Josh. I think I mentioned this to Eddie the other day. Like, I don't know if you walked in that other room, Josh, but, like, the podcast has always been something that kind of set us apart. We started it really before any other sites were doing anything like that. You would see, like, you know, that you had some Sooner fans that had some podcasts here and there, and we were like, well, let's make a really good one. And Eddie was, he was pretty well into your radio career. Then I don't know, had you had a full-time job when we started the pod or not? Or you just kind of, yeah.
No, I don't know.
No. I'd done the podcast. That was one of the reasons that
you got hired.
Yes, technically I got the opportunity, and then I ended up doing some like fill-in work during, like, you know, the holiday season, the summer extravaganza, what everybody does, and then that led, Steely, obviously, I guess, adding as a fourth team, and then the Fauci disease.
Yeah, I got you. And no, but I mean, you know, when we had started it, it was kind of a weird thing because, like, you know, we were small. We started doing video, like bringing Eddie aboard. Like, that was like revolutionary at the time when we did it. Like, nobody had a video guy for a website,
right?
And it turned into this thing where it's like, well, let's do really good video. So let's buy really expensive cameras for us at the time. But, like, let's buy some cameras. We'd always had it, like, we had that little DV camera, Josh, that, you know, we were doing before Eddie was in the picture. We'd started doing video. That was on the old DV cassettes, which Eddie got very familiar with those. I think, you know, we're not doing video today. I just needed a break from video. I've always thought that would be like a good set piece for Eddie to have the old DV camera behind him. And maybe the one that the kid ruined, the JV kid. Just all the cameras that you've been through over the years. But, like, it was always the expense. Like, Josh got a camera, and, like, I would even make Josh get, like, the prosumer camera. It was like yours had, like, these special jingles and stuff. It was kind of embarrassing to be with you when you were using it because you turn it on and be like, bung, 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 bung. Well, Eddie had a real professional one, but, you know, I was just being cheap. But over the years, we've got more cameras, and then the first time, we never thought, like, all our money always went into traveling and cameras. That was all we ever spent money on. And then we're like, okay, we're going to do this podcast. You know, but I've been around radio. Eddie's doing, you know, Eddie's starting to, he was even, then he was like setting up remotes and things like that back at KREF, I think, in those days. And so you knew what you were doing. And, you know, we're like, well, Josh is in Houston and I know a way to make it sound like he's in the room. And so we invested in like this mixing board. It was like, I don't know, $2,000, $1,700 at the time or something. And it was like one of those things, like we had to have this like big group decision, like should we spend this? And then the microphones were like $350 a piece. And we're like, holy shit, like what are we getting ourselves into? And then everybody loved it. It was great. And, you know, we still have that same mixer. And like that's to me, it's kind of, I don't know, it's not like nostalgic or like, you know, sad or anything like that. But it's just to see where we are now compared to those days, we're just buying a $1,700 mixer. We're like, shit, what are we doing here? Like we're blowing our life savings.
I miss those days
on mixers. That was before
when $1,700 was. Oh God, that's painful.
Yeah, that was the small purchase, right?
Yes. Now that's just part of 17 pieces we need.
I just committed to more than that this morning.
Good.
Well, it's gonna have construction and all that.
Sure.
So Tereso's pretty cheap.
Okay. I mean, give him a little shout out in the pod, little business his way.
If you need a guy named Tereso, and he comes and says, I can do that for you, then you say how much, and he's going to blow you away by how cheap he is. I don't know if he's up to code, per se, but, you know, we'll just skip that part of it. Anyway, So, last night we did the, kind of what we've been building to, which, you were in town and had the camp, and we've kind of been gearing toward the SEC schedule release. We wanted to do like a live stream, and we haven't really done a proper live stream out of the studio. But it turns out like some of the equipment we have is, not capable of that, so we had to order more. But we had the idea, well, let's show Josh what we've been working on and how we can show him the video of camp, and Eddie and I were in there scrambling to get the video all ready to go. And it was fantastic.
You guys did that really quickly. Like, I know it seemed like a scramble to you all, but I mean, I think you were gone for like 20, 30 minutes. It wasn't any big deal.
Well, to Eddie's credit, he's familiarized himself with the editing of an archival video. It's basically been through a boot camp the last month, just uploading all of our game logs from last year and all that stuff. So
yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. I was
doing like 10 cuts is nothing compared to doing 250 at one time.
No, and everything is like the hardest thing really is just finding where the clips are, like, and knowing who's who, and then labeling it. Once you get everything labeled, it's about as easy of a process as you could possibly have.
And that's like what people keep asking us on the board, like, what's on YouTube, what's on podcasts. Like, here's the thing I realized kind of working through. I was like, we're gonna have to have another another YouTube channel just for the Unofficial 40 podcast, because if we don't, it screws up all our analytics and stuff for advertisers and things like that. So it's more of a pain than it seems. Like, we've just been kind of putting stuff up to kind of show people, like, this is, I know you've been clamoring for, more stuff, and what are we doing with all these studios? That was, last night was kind of the culmination of, okay, this is how cool it can be. And all that stuff that you see on that video, like, we can do that in real time. It was the first time fiddling around with it, so I took some more time. We left here about 2 a.m. in the morning, just getting it all to look good. But, like, yeah, we're going to be able to do what you see on YouTube with the camp breakdown. Like, we're going to be able to do live stuff like that moving forward. It's going to look like a real professional broadcast production.
Like I said, just sitting here doing it last night, I was kind of geeking out a little bit, just because there's all these monitors, we can watch what's going on, and I really enjoyed Eddie and I being able to say, hell, look at this catch, look at what Andy Bass did here. And again, I mean, this is the stuff I know people that have been around kind of since this office got off the ground a couple of years ago now. Like, people are like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen?
October, it was when we started.
Was it? Okay. Well, I mean, it's
about
been
a year
while.
and a half.
Yeah, sure. And it is one of those things, like, this was the stuff we were talking about then, and it's just, it's not, A, it's not cheap, and B, it's not easy. Like, if this stuff was simple and anyone could do it, we wouldn't be the first ones largely doing this kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, and what it comes down to is it's our philosophy. It always has been, which is, what aren't we doing that our subscribers would like us to do, or how are we not reaching the fans in a way that we can reach the fans? And I think just overall, I call it new media, whether it's podcasting, YouTube, live streams, whatever. Anything that's not terrestrial radio or newspaper or local television, over-the-air broadcast, like, people can, I said this to the board today, like, people consume content in so many different ways now, more than they ever have before. And, like, people get in arguments like, well, why I don't need it on YouTube, I just wanted a podcast, or why isn't the podcast on YouTube, I like it that. Everybody consumes things differently. Yeah. And so we want to be in as many different areas for you to be able to consume our content. And the great thing, I was telling Josh this yesterday, it's like, there's so many people out there doing, like, I saw, and not to rip on anybody, I won't say his name, but, like, I saw some guy doing a breakdown of Justin Harrington as a cornerback, and, like, you could tell the comments were coming. He's like, he's a cheetah, dude. Like, he's a safety.
Yeah.
So, like, there's so many people out there doing and trying to do recruiting videos, but it's based a lot off of your information and other people's information. Like, people can now go to YouTube and watch stuff and go straight to the horse's mouth and get that info.
Absolutely. Included among those are my two daughters, who are very excited to subscribe and follow. And I'm shamelessly asking all of you listening to do the same damn thing.
That's right.
So, again, because that stuff, I know it seems simple and stupid. And for those, I think a lot of people listen to the pod maybe don't know. There's no payment on YouTube. You just subscribe. You get notified of if we put something new up, and that stuff will be happening more and more frequently. We're already throwing around all kinds of ideas for the summer, for into the season, like things we want to do. So
and the important thing is, like, YouTube is not going to take away from the pod. We're only going to do more pods. You know, George wants to do a pod. We're going to start working on his pod.
Yep.
We've talked about maybe like a fan pod or a student pod or something like that. You know, and there's all the I've said this today on the board, like, I still don't even think we're in the infancy of media NIL, because I don't think that's been explored. I don't think, that could be something to me that's, student athletes can take advantage of. It's just like with the softball shirts. It's like, we got $12,000 sitting around. Like, do I take that and make that like a Kinsey Hansen show next year? Like, if she comes back, like, we don't have to give it all up now. Like, we can just put it and use it for NIL media stuff with softball in the future. So
we should put it all on the OU Texas game, like we like the idea to do with the Orange Bowl a couple years ago.
Yeah. I forget. Was that the Orange Bowl?
I think the decision that ended up being a pretty good decision that we did not do that.
We gave that a scary amount of consideration. That
it
really
was a good.
I
still think it was a good plan. I mean, I can't remember exactly what it was. I do remember thinking like this would not be the end of us, but it could also be a nice benefit.
Was it the Peach Bowl?
It might have been the Peach Bowl.
I think it might have been.
Was it the Peach Bowl, the LSU game?
Yeah, I think.
Well, that didn't turn out.
No, I think it was the Rose Bowl.
Was it?
I think it was the Rose Bowl.
It could have been.
I thought we were going to Miami. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
That was a while
they
back.
all run together.
So go back and listen
rather
to your
forgettable
podcast,
on all counts.
Yes.
Pick one. They're all pretty forgettable.
Yeah, it might have been the Clemson Orange Bowl. Who knows? So anyway, I mean, it was a game. It might have been the Peach Bowl because I think it was a game that we thought that they would definitely get their heads kicked in.
Yeah, but it was worth it if we took a flyer like money line. We're like, well, if we come in, we're getting paid.
That's what we were going to bet against OU. And if they lost and we covered it, we were going to make our money back.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should have done that. Maybe that would have been a better bet.
So anyway, all that being said, I forgot to hit record again today. Which is
Eddie thought it happened a second time.
I did
saw
too.
You alert.
I did too. I was like, oh God, how do we do that?
It definitely is counting down. The only thing you really missed is us giving Eddie grief for not switching to his new laptop because
Which
we're
is going
getting
to
grief.
happen in
but
time.
we're getting grief. That's the part. Now that we're doing all this YouTube stuff, everybody can see the tape on your laptop. And
I think it just calls for character.
The left mouse button is falling off of it.
Well, nobody can see that, and you just got to hit it right. I'm telling you, I've never had any problems with it. That's why there's like a little indention where you need to hit. There's like a little. Are
you Helen Keller now? All of a sudden, you need
no
guidance.
I mean,
like her, you can see. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, she can see. She's been Stevie Wondering the world for a long, long time.
What do folks that enjoy say about that?
Bring her in, I guess. I think that's what the exact quote was. Well, bring her in. What was her? What was the teacher that caught all the grief? What was her teacher's name? She's just as at fault. Annie something. I thought.
Frank?
No.
Whoa. Definitely not. Anne
Not
Frank.
going there. Not going there. I believe that story.
Oh, she was the one that was mean to her, like slapped her around and stuff.
Well, Helen Keller was mean to her.
Right. No, I mean somebody was mean to Helen Keller though,
Ann
right?
Sullivan.
Ann Sullivan. That's right.
I'm impressed, guys. I was drawing a total blank there.
She was the bitch though, right? Ann Sullivan was, right?
Well, no, Helen Keller was the bitch
because she pretended to be blind.
Right.
And Ann was just
she's the one that was in on the bit the whole time.
And Ann was like, I know you're not blind. I'm going to smack you around.
Well, probably. And she ended up probably profiting.
Like, how many times can I swing this open hand at your face until you duck?
It was a game. It's like Duck, Duck, Goose back in the day.
It is like, it's like this story. And did you ever ask your dad about the...
Oh, no, I haven't.
God,
I need to.
You're disappointing me a lot on this trip, I'm going to tell you right now.
That's fair.
No, but Eddie does have a new laptop. He actually has a new 4K camera, which I'm excited to see because you are a good cameraman. I mean, Josh, you were giving him credit. I fully agreed with you. So I hope we can find another not that we're firing you, but I hope that we can find another guy to go along with you at some point. So
that's fine. You can fire me. See you in court.
No, but it is time, I think, for the enjoy fresh perspective look around. And, I think obviously camp news, we'll continue to talk about another day tomorrow. It'll be the final prospect camp for Brent Venables and staff until they go into the big recruiting weekend for Champ U Barbecue, which are they even calling it that anymore?
I haven't seen them publicize it that much, but I mean,
the fans are used to calling it.
I'm definitely still using that just for simplicity's sake, if nothing else. But yeah, it should be. It's going to be another good camp day. I've already got probably 4 or 5 offers. I think Devon Mitchell. Is
Sperry going to be there again?
He will 100%.
I mean, if you come this far, you got to finish it off.
I was joking with him yesterday, like you're almost there, man. You're almost home, and
I mean, that's the most impressive and weird thing I've ever seen.
I never thought, like, he told me that from the outset, and I did not think he'd do it, and it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. And again, the thing that I marvel at is it's not like, he comes for the morning and then he hangs out in the afternoon. He goes through both sessions, like he and his brother as well.
He was clearly sweating his ass off in that video yesterday. Like, in the indoor, it's hot out there. Like, he is not just there to stand around and talk to people. But also coming up today, and I think maybe we should kind of give our predictions because we're not going to have a live show, but the SEC schedule release. And, I think a lot of people, for me, it's gotten kind of fun the way we've been talking about it all day, the way we talked about it this morning on the show. The NFL thing desensitizes you a little bit to schedule releases because you're like, why are you trying to make such a big deal out of it? It's like, I don't care. But I get it. There's some fans that want to plan, that are that big of a fan and they want to plan those kind of things. But, I mean, for this, I'm getting excited about it because, rumors are out there. It does seem like Alabama, is going to play Oklahoma. I think, we're hearing I don't know that we're hearing the opposite. I think we're hearing more that it's probably going to be in Norman.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's going to be the case. The SEC will be sending its 2 premier institutions out on the road to the new places as far as Georgia going to Texas. Now, it is a little bit weird that Alabama does go, or Texas goes to Alabama this season in 2023, which will obviously be a non-conference game. But, yeah, it's pretty much confirmed that of the 7 games that right now, one of them is going to be OU hosting Alabama. Now, it is interesting today. We don't get dates. There are no dates involved. This matchups. Is just opponents.
Well, and I thought, I thought in terms of, okay, so if the SEC is, just means more, they're going to want to put the best matchups possible. But I don't know that that's going to happen because, like, if you want the best matchup possible with Texas and Oklahoma, I think it is forcing Josh Heupel to come back to Norman and play Oklahoma in Norman.
That'd be cool. That's
the biggest storyline I could think of. Now, there's also the Arch Manning goes to Ole Miss and plays where Eli played and his dad and his grandfather played. Eli actually his uncle. But like that would be a pretty cool storyline. People think, which would mean that OU and Mississippi State would play if they did that. Also, you got the Mark Stoops and the Mike Stoops connection with Kentucky, like having them play Oklahoma, like make Oklahoma go there probably. Yeah. And they're a very tough defense. And then you have like Florida and Bob Stoops. I mean, you kind of have a lot of these little Bob Stoops storylines, him being the guy that brought Oklahoma back, so many connections to places in the SEC.
It almost seems like Alabama and Florida, Missouri, like those are 3 that I'm pretty confident you're going to find on the schedule. And then you kind of start working your way down. Is it going to be a Tennessee? Is it going to be an Ole Miss?
And the other thing to me
South Carolina, I think, would be fun just because Shane's over there.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing to me is you have to do this if you're at the SEC. You have to make Texas go to College Station and play A&M.
Yeah, and I think that
it's the okay. We know you guys have been butthurt over this.
Sure.
Here's what we're going to do to make it not make it right, but make you feel better. Let you know we're on your side.
The 3 games that Chip Brown put out on, I guess that'd be Wednesday morning, were Arkansas, A&M in College Station, and Georgia. So those are the 3 of the 7 that we know for Texas. And, I thought it was interesting, too, that Peter Burns had put it out there this morning that OU and Texas will play opposite schedules. So if there's a name on OU's schedule, Texas won't be playing.
If they're playing Tennessee, Texas won't be.
Right. So we know for a fact going in, OU's not going to probably play Arkansas in 2024.
Not gonna play
They're
A&M.
not going to play A&M in 2024, and they're not going to play Georgia in 2024 unless you were to meet them in Atlanta in the SEC championship game.
The question is who gets saddled with LSU, because you got Tennessee out there, you got Texas A&M, you got Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida. Like, I would say LSU, they might be the third best team. I mean, they might be the fourth best team.
Kind of feels like that's a Texas thing.
But they've just played them recently.
Well, they just played Georgia though.
But OU,
not Georgia, excuse me, Arkansas. They just got out of a series with Arkansas. Texas did.
Oh,
well,
yeah, they did. They lost.
Wasn't it a home and home
years ago.
about
Yeah.
2 years ago? It was a Herman thing, wasn't it? That was a Herman coach team.
It was Sark's first year was when they got just
That's right. They got
Fayetteville.
that's right. I don't know. Selfishly, I would love to go to Baton Rouge on a Saturday night, but I don't know if that's probably the best thing for
that.
Oklahoma.
Really would be this is what you don't understand, OU fans, about the SEC moment.
I think so.
I'm thinking
all the OU fans that have been going around saying we're SEC ready. No, Baton Rouge at night will show you that you're not
unless
SEC
you
ready.
show up and stab somebody in Death Valley.
Well, I'm thinking of Eddie.
Then you win
at the Cotton Bowl in front of the band. playing the video that everybody's seen. Eddie with neck in the background just feels.
Man.
I mean that feels. So
I think that's when I'll
tailor-made.
know that I'm home.
No, but I think with was there any bigger certainty than Alabama and Georgia were absolutely one was getting Oklahoma, one was getting Texas. That was going to happen. So I think that's really interesting. I think the idea of, guys, obviously we've got no iron in that fire, but watching Texas go to College Station, that's going to be awesome, man. That's going to be an incredible environment. And if we're talking about Alabama coming to Norman, that's going to be amazing.
Can you imagine? I already had somebody reach out to me and just say, can you imagine the amount of official visits that weekend?
Oh, my
or just
God.
visits in general? Any sport, baseball, golf, basketball. That will be one of the busiest weekends in Norman. Ohio State 2016, maybe? We're literally talking about 5, 6, 7 years.
I would say Tennessee was and Ohio State very similar, but Ohio State, you felt like their fans arrived earlier, maybe. You saw a lot of orange on game day.
Yeah, Notre Dame was like that in 2012 as well.
Remember, they all stayed downtown, and they had a big pep rally down there and everything.
Yeah. It's just I think that's one of the more interesting aspects of all of this, too, is, what this means for everybody around here on Campus Corner or Oklahoma City as far as and I know that people that are investing into buildings in Norman with 2024 and beyond in mind, knowing how big of a cash cow it could be.
Right. And I know that there's some talk about just almost restructuring Campus Corner because of the SEC.
Which is even more interesting. This thing has been...
Don't tear our building down, please.
Unless it's going to be badass. Unless they're going to build something badass in place of it.
Just looking at all the work we've done.
I think dehoming us.
Well, we'll get a good full season in or something.
But for me, Eddie talked about the official visits. That'll be interesting to see what OU does with that, because I wonder how much importance they've made in the summer. Because you had about 13 guys last week, and this weekend there's going to be more than 20 guys on official visits. Do you shift some of that back towards the season because you've got better home games? You have bigger
Depends on how good you are, to me.
Yeah. I just
if you feel like you're going to have a great opponent come in here and you're going to go toe-to-toe and win that game, like Tennessee, Alabama last year, did they put everything they could into the recruiting weekend? I don't think they probably did.
It was pretty huge. Now, again, I don't think it was 30 official visitors, but that's also a primary difference. When I see guys that do what I do for Alabama or Georgia, and they'll talk about these big visit weekends, and it's 20, 25 guys during the season. Now, they've had the support staff that Oklahoma hasn't had until now,
right?
Which they can now, Oklahoma can now
pull
handle those kind of weekends. But secondarily, they didn't have the weekends that would draw, because if a kid was going to choose Oklahoma, Baylor at Oklahoma or Ohio State, Michigan, he's friggin' going to Ohio State, Michigan. There was no way to combat some of those weekends. So I think I wonder how much that led into the summer's going to be our big visit time.
Are all recruits staying at the Noun Hotel now?
I don't honestly know. I mean, I wouldn't imagine they would move it around unless they had to.
Well, I mean, they were out. You stayed at the place they used to stay at, which used to be the Marriott out there, but then they were at the NBC Suites.
Right. I know that they've brought in a couple of transfer portal guys, and they were at the Noun. Like, okay. I recognize the room. But I don't know if, like, just a high school kid, if they're putting him over there or not. One of the biggest deals, I think, is, like, even for, like, a game day weekend and things like that is, I don't know if there's enough rooms. They have a lot of those already sold out.
Yeah, and it's not like if you have the NBC Suites, there's a lot of room.
Sure,
it's a bit. They've got ballrooms and all that stuff. Like Noun's more of a boutique hotel.
I really don't know. That's a good question.
But no, I mean, I think it going back to your original point. Like, yeah, you bring in 30 people to Alabama if you win the Big 12 this year and play in the college football playoff.
100%. Yep, and that's a really good thing that you have to navigate. And that's why we keep talking about how important this year is for Oklahoma. They've got to get this right because you need some momentum going, because it's not, I mean, it's different, but it's not that different than what we're talking about with BYU, Cincinnati, all these schools going in to the Big 12. They haven't had to play a week-in, week-out schedule like this. Oklahoma has not played a week-in, week-out schedule like we're about to see, them get put in front of in 2024 tonight. So
it's crazy, like, what the schedule is this year, and everybody kind of, I think we've all been asked, like, do you think, you can win 9 games this year? Like, and it's a weak schedule. You look at, like, what people are kind of piecing together, what, like Alabama and Georgia's schedule is going to be. It's a murderer's row. Like, OU would not fare well playing that schedule this year, no matter how much better they're getting.
I'm going to state it for the record. I've said it several times. If this team doesn't win 9 games, I'm concerned. Like, looking at this schedule, and we did a story, Bob, Eddie, George, and myself all made predictions on the season. I think the worst of it was 10-2.
It was like, and I looked over it multiple times. It's like I told you in the office earlier. I looked over it multiple times. Like, am I just being a huge homer right now? I don't see a whole lot of losses on that schedule. It's hard to find some of those losses, and particularly maybe it's because in the back of my brain I'm thinking, like, having gone through all of those games that we have been recataloging, it's like, holy shit, how did they lose in Morgantown? How did you lose in Lubbock? How did you lose even a Baylor game where if you don't turn the ball over 4 or 5 times, you're right in it, even with all those turnovers. That there's no doubt about it.
And let me figure this out because I did not fill out the prediction thing, which you guys left me in there. Thanks for the blanks.
That was a little bit of an error in communication.
So no, but Eddie, what was your prediction?
10-2.
No, you're 11-1, Eddie. You had BYU's the only loss you've got on here on your schedule.
Did I change Texas?
Yeah, you picked a win in Dallas.
Oh, whoops.
The three of us went 10-2, and you went 11-1.
I would say this.
I think I
Homer Radosevich.
Well, no, here
actually, that's not that at all. I think Eddie has the best vision of all of us because he's had LASIK from Enjoy.
That's a very good point, Carey. Enjoy Vision is the best laser vision center in Oklahoma City, and it's not even close. The combination of mind-blowing technology, experienced eyeball surgeons, and exceptional patient care was life-changing for me. What Enjoy wants to do for the U40 listener is give you $400 off if you are interested in getting LASIK and seeing like me. EnjoyWithMe.com. That's all you got to do is go to the letter N, J-O-Y, withme.com. Use promo code U40. Receive $400 off. Enjoy Vision. This is where you LASIK.
And I always say there are no guarantees that you can see into the future if you get LASIK from Enjoy Vision, but Eddie always says.
I can see quite clearly. I might have perfect vision.
Into the future.
Into the future, yeah.
Okay.
Although I don't have vision into the past because I thought that I put 10-2. That's on me. I think even if you read the thing that I put next to the Texas write-up, it makes it look like I put a loss at the Cotton Bowl. So that's my bad. I meant to say 10-2.
Yeah, you've got win, and the first line is, you're going to hate me.
Right. I wondered why I didn't catch a whole lot of hell about that. That's funny. Well, and I think it's more so just because I did look through that schedule, and it's hard to find losses. Like, gun to my head, do I think that they're going to go lose in Provo? Probably not. I probably would side with the other side.
I'm getting conflicting. getting conflicting information. And Josh, I don't know. We're here. Sorry, we got the delivery. All right, well, sorry, there was a little delivery break there. As we said, a lot of stuff happening in the office these days. So, I mean, yeah, what OU does this year, it is important because I think you kind of see it with the camps, Josh. I mean, you have guys coming in. Everyone wants to be. It's kind of like yesterday in the video you guys did. It's like, yeah, you're getting on a kid from Baton Rouge, but is this a program right now that's able to kind of convince a kid from an area known to, it's just like the Mike Brown kid too, the kid from Spring. It's like you have all these guys that, and of course Mike Brown's a new name, but you can tell he's very talented. But he already had the A&M offer, so they'd been able to see him down there, knew of him. Like if you're not playing above this level, you're not going to steal many guys out of their, out of their proximity over like a Georgia or a Clemson or people like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I think that's been something that has been almost a learning curve a little bit for some of this staff that had been at Clemson that was, that had that pedigree where they could walk in and say, hey, we've won 2 national titles in the last 10 years, and we recruit out of Florida all the time. We've landed all these 5 stars. Some of that carries over with you, but not all of it. So I think that's been a little bit of them having to figure out, okay, we can still win pretty heavily here because I feel like you've seen – and I don't know that a lot of payoff so far, but I feel like they've been more involved in Southern California again, and not like to the level that Lincoln Riley was, but just, hey, we've got a lot of guys here that have had success from California. We've had guys go to the NFL from here. I obviously think they're, and this was always going to happen, Brent putting a lot of focus in that Missouri, Kansas area. Last year paying off with Caden Green and PJ Atabare. This year, after guys like Williams Neri, Caden Massey, you go down the list, there's plenty of guys in that group. So I think that has been a learning process, and you have to start putting some momentum because there's only so far, basically with what I was just saying, there's only so far that you can say, this is our goal, this is our vision, this is what we want to be, before you have to start doing some of it. You have, it's what Texas would run into under, Charlie Strong, under Tom Herman, where they were selling, oh, this is what we're going to be, this is what we're going to do. But eventually it's got to start being something. And I'm not saying they got to go win the national title this year, but you've got to show progress.
Well, and I think that there is plenty of people a part of the program, whether it be boosters, like big-time boosters or whoever, that they're going to support the program through thick and thin. And it seems like with the schedule, it's going to be talked about for the next 3 months how easy it is if you don't perform to a, standard or level that is acceptable. There's going to be a lot of concern going into, what is going to be one of the largest shifts for the program and for the athletic just department as a whole, maybe ever. Like you're entering a couple year stretch where you can't F around, or you're going to become a Nebraska and also a laughing stock of the country.
Well, because it's, especially from a recruiting perspective, it's really hard once you get knocked down the pecking order to climb your way back up. That's one of the hardest things you can do while you still are at the top. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to stay on top. It's incredibly difficult as well. But once, Tennessee moves ahead of you, because Oklahoma's used to being 1 or 2 in the pecking order. If it's a Big 12 kid, a Big 12 area, and that kid's going to stay in the region, it's going to be them or Texas 95 times out of 100. Like, there's just very few exceptions. They're going to the SEC, and they might be 5th as far as, like, recruiting, like having the advantages that you walk into. Alabama's going to win most of the battles with OU. Georgia's going to win most of the battles. LSU's going to win a lot of battles. Texas is obviously going to win a lot of battles. So they don't have some of these advantages, and so you have to you just can't afford 2 years where you slip and you start letting people say, oh, maybe this isn't going to work out, maybe this isn't the thing. Even if it's 8-4, that's just so far below what people expect and, the players that of the caliber OU wants to land expect.
I've gotten kind of wind of some stuff with the admin about things, just the way things are going. I mean, obviously you have a year like this, you're 6-7. Everybody says, are we going in the right direction? And I think the administration has been proactive in that I do know this, that they are prepared basically, and they understand Brent's going to fix the defense. Like, they're going to be better. But we cannot fall off offensively. We cannot become this program that all of a sudden looks like Kentucky, where, it's boring. You're just trying to win by holding people to a small amount of scores. I mean, like the Will Levis thing, like that still bothers me. Like the people thought he would be anywhere near the first pick of the draft. But administration-wise, they are doing everything they can to say, Jeff Lebby, we believe in you. We are prepared to do whatever it takes to keep you, even if that means turning down a lesser job. Now, if you get offered a Power 5 job at a place that has a little bit of tradition, they understand. They can't do anything about it. But to keep him going from, I think there's a really concerted effort behind the scenes right now to keep him from taking like a Louisiana Tech or SMU or something that's not really, or maybe a Pac-12 school, even like a Washington State or something like that. Like, they're prepared to pay him to stay here at Oklahoma until he gets the exact right job so Brent can have a longer chance to turn this thing around.
I think almost the kind of quote-unquote scary thing is, and I guess it depends on what you think of him as an offensive play caller, but what if Jeff Lebby leaves after the 2023 Oklahoma football season for a head coaching job or for whatever? Then you're left with a situation with Jackson Arnold, and I think
that's part of it too, from what I've been told.
As highly as we think about Kevin Sperry, and clearly his admiration for Jeff Lebby in working with him for the last month at all the camps.
Well, look at Malachi Nelson. I mean, look what happened with him.
Sure, he was dead set on coming to Oklahoma, and all of a sudden Lincoln leaves, and now that made sense for him to actually just end up going to the school down the street from where he grew up. But at the same time, I think that, I don't know. I guess it just depends on what you think of the offense, because you can sit here and shit on it as much as you want, but like going through the stuff in the games from last year, it just doesn't really feel like they're as far off as maybe some would make it out to be. Now, they got to mirror everything. I think that they do need to slow down at times. Obviously, those are concerns with in-game management and that kind of stuff that you surely have to make. Like, those are the adjustments that they're going to have to look at going into the season.
There is, again, and the thing that's been interesting to me is we talked about this last summer when we talked about, feeling like the camp and everything around the program was just a little disjointed, a little unorganized. Mm-hmm. And for some reason this summer is when I'm hearing, like, I got a lot of questions in board chat, a lot of stuff on the board. Josh, is it as chaotic? Eddie, I don't know. Like, I'd be interested in your take, but being out there, I feel like there's a much more cohesive feeling. I think it's to just what I see.
Everybody knowing where they need to be.
Yeah.
I think that there was so much new last year. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking all the way down into like the football offices with secretaries having done something the same way for the last 20 years. And then you have guys coming in and saying, that's not how we're going to do it anymore. I think that does it affect them getting a 3rd and 1 at the Cotton Bowl? No, I don't think so. But I mean, I do think that there was a lot of newness even to the players. I mean, they talked about it during the spring last year. They talked about it even going into the beginning of the season and not really knowing what to expect. And then you hear, the talk about how tired everybody was going into that first bye week and basically limping in. I just think that it's kind of interesting. Sure, you're going through it for the second time. Everybody's a little bit more familiar with how Brent wants to run things. But, again, there are things that Oklahoma coaching staff has to do to put their players in better position to win this season. But they're not idiots. Like, I fall back on this idea, like, Brent Venables isn't an idiot. It's kind of like the argument against Todd Bates right now that I know we'll get into with Derek LeBlanc. And somebody asking you in chat, like, why we've talked about Todd Bates as a prolific recruiter. It's only everything that he's ever done. Like, that's the only reason why people think that he's a good recruiter. I'm not gonna penalize him for one kid's dumbass decision.
Yeah, and it is. That's one of those things where people are like, well, what were you guys thinking? Look at the data. Like, there's nothing to support Todd Bates as anything other than an elite recruiter and an elite defensive line coach. So you just gotta, you've got to be patient with that stuff. But, when you look at it, and I kind of what I was saying earlier, I want to be fair to Brent. Like, not only was he a first-time head coach, first time, that a lot of rebuilt staff, almost two staffs kind of coming together as like a Frankenstein's monster kind of thing. You had a little bit of a feel of that. But you also had, like Carey and I were talking about earlier, 3 times the staff size that they were used to. I mean, I can't overstate how different it feels at that camp compared to the 20 years I've been covering it. Because usually it's the coaches and a couple of assistants running around. Once upon a time it was Brandon Hall is one of those GA type guys. Now, Eddie, I don't know all the faces. Like, there are so many people out there. I'm like, I know you, I don't know you.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how much support there is. And when you have that much built in, that's great. Once it all knows what it's doing and it's all orchestrated, that's fine. But in year one, there were going to be some bumps because OU went from 2002 to 2022 in a off season. Like, they grew their staff that exponentially beyond, kind of caught up with the Joneses and had been living more like a MAC school in staff size for a long time.
That the support staff definitely needs a lot more food to eat every day when they go home. And, one way they could handle that is to go to primeshrimp.com. Terrible segue, I know, but I specialize in them.
No, Woody said yesterday that he really wants some shrimp, so we need to send him some.
Okay. He makes a lot of money off of us, so I don't know why he needs me to pay for it.
He didn't say that. I made that up. That was just part of the...
Anyway, I get in a lot of trouble. Primeshrimp.com, go check them out. They got a special going on for only for SoonerScoop subscribers and pod listeners, unofficial 40 pod listeners. 25% off your entire order of $50 or more. Look, we all know shrimp. It's healthy. It's full of protein. And there's a lot of different ways to make it, and they do tons of different ways. Whether you're, like the Cajun stuff, they've got the signature Cajun seasoned shrimp, the French Quarter Alfredo, the New Orleans style barbecue, the Louisiana boil Cajun shrimp, or if you like it just a little bit more elegant, like the garlic herb butter shrimp, the lemon and cracked pepper shrimp. Just go to their website, primeshrimp.com, Prime shrimp.com, and check out what they've got to offer. Great friends of the podcast. They'll get it to you, shipped right out. Comes in the dry ice. Your kids will love playing with that as well. But just, a great way to have a good meal, under 10 minutes, healthy. You feel good about it. You don't go to bed feeling all gross. You don't wake up feeling all gross. Primeshrimp.com. Go check them out. And enter that promo code U40 to get 25% off your entire order of $50 or more. Okay, so I wanted to ask you this too, Josh. I mean, and you're right. Brent does what he knows. And building relationships through camps is something that he has done a great job over the years. I mean, you go back to early 2000s. I mean, guys coming through here like Teddy Lehman that, I want to say probably felt I haven't talked to Teddy about this in a long time, but probably felt a little disrespected when he came through here. And I know his dad was kind of, had that a little bit going around, but he used that camp to really – and I think it was Nebraska, wasn't it, that was really recruiting him hard at that time?
Yep.
But, he's used to using camps as a way to build relationships with people. And I think we've talked about it before, but, a lot of afternoon sessions, you wouldn't see him because everyone that came, he was spending time with them up in the office, and that's where you see the pictures come out or getting the offers. But, I don't know, do you get a sense that the recruits themselves kind of, are – they take in the experience and enjoy it a lot more than maybe they did in the past?
Oh, I think that's absolutely fair. I talked to Andy Bass for a little bit last night, and he mentioned, really, basically it was like Brent Venables spent an hour with me, and then I went on the tour. It wasn't I got an offer, I'm an in-state kid, I better go ahead and pull the trigger like that. And I know there were in-state kids in the past, and that's not just on Riley. That was something you would hear dating back to, kind of the later years of Bob's era as well. It's like there was, I'm an in-state kid. They just kind of expected me to come. So I think Brent has done a really good job, and it shouldn't surprise anyone who's followed the press conferences, who, has listened to us talk. he's an engaging guy. Like, he doesn't talk just to say the things he wants to say. Like, he wants to interact with you. He wants to say hello. I mean, I'm sitting on the sidelines yesterday and watching Jonte Newman and Jayshon Ross, and he walks up and fist bumps me, and we just kind of say what's up, and that's not to make me important but that's just who Brent is. Like, he acknowledges you. He's very aware of you.
He's not bullshitting when he talks about relationships.
100%. That's who he is.
That's the most amazing part too, is that he does make you feel very important every time that he talks to you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that really hits home with a lot of people. I think that's obviously why he's a great recruiter. I think that, it's kind of interesting in talking even somebody like an Andy Bass that it would seem that they're going about it a much different way than what we were familiar with the other staff. And I think that we knew that. It's pretty black and white, too, as far as what they're doing. But even from an evaluation standpoint, it seems like it's much different.
Oh, I mean, guys, is there any doubt for you that I don't care how good Andy Bass was yesterday?
He would have never got offered.
He wouldn't have been offered. I don't think there's any question in my mind.
Eric McCarty's not at Oklahoma right now.
100%. No, he's at Kansas State or somewhere else.
And I think that there is a certain I don't know about, like, there is a certain level of those are the types of guys that Oklahoma's been missing out on. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you got to recruit at the same level that you have been in getting the 5-star kid or getting the high 4-star kid and how you marry those two is going to be very fascinating, especially moving forward to a conference where you simply have to have the elite talent to be able to compete.
Yeah. At a place like Oklahoma, you should be landing elite players. You should be landing top 100 guys. You should be landing 5-stars. Like, that's got to happen. I think a big part that gets lost at times, and I think maybe is something that you saw wane in really the 2010s, were those in-state guys that, like, it mattered to them to play for Oklahoma. I'm one who often mocks people that say that. Those guys can't be your best players. That's not, and I'm not saying all Oklahoma kids. Like, obviously, David Stone or Danny Okoye, there's a world in which they are elite NFL players, and Oklahoma's very proud to have them on the roster.
Sure.
But there are plenty of Oklahoma kids that are every bit as good as some of these kids in the years past that we've seen offered in California or wherever in the country. I don't want to single anybody out. That's not the point. It's just they were overlooked, and at times it very much felt like because they were Oklahoma kids. Like, there was really no other reason. Well, they're from Oklahoma. They can't be as good. And this staff, I think they realize that there is something to having, I kind of hate this term, but the glue
I can't
guys.
believe you're saying this. Yeah. I mean, like, so much time has been spent about people complaining that they don't
100%.
Sign enough Oklahomans.
Yeah. Yeah, and again,
which I still, I don't agree that you should recruit a guy just because he's from Oklahoma.
Agreed.
Now, that, like you're saying, does it maybe help locker room chemistry a little bit? Sure, I could buy into that.
Yep.
I know it's kind of sounds messed up, but I would rather take a chance on a kid from Oklahoma than I would anywhere else. Because I do think at the end of the day that there is something that when you're playing for something greater, like, it just means more. And that's all the way down into the high school level of stuff. That's one of the parts of the reason why the East Side schools, and I don't want to get into this conversation, but it's like that's why the Jinx, the Unions, the Bixbys, they've been really, really good, because when you grow up in it, when you start in 6th or 7th grade or 5th grade or 4th grade or whatever, it means something to you.
But you're also not going to get to the college football playoff by just recruiting Union and Jinx kids.
100%.
Yeah, I think it doesn't always improve your ceiling, but it might help your floor. Mm-hmm. Like, your floor, we might not bottom out because we've got a few more guys here that are about what we're about. They know what this means. They know, in years past, you'd say they know what Bedlam is. They're not going to overlook Bedlam, because I think that was something that got talked about at times, especially early 2000s when Oklahoma was struggling at times in that game. It was like, well, is there are enough Oklahoma kids? Does this matter to enough guys on this roster? And I don't know if that was ever fair, but I know it was a conversation that took place a lot.
Hey, don't forget, Dad, it is 25% off and free shipping at deadsoxy.com right now for Father's Day sale. Go to the website, deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Get him a great pair of socks. He deserves it. So Dad will love him. We love him. No shows, the boardroom, the go get the college colorways. Anything for Dad. He deserves Dead Soxy. They're fantastic socks, great company, and great customer service. So go to the website, deadsoxy.com, enter that promo code U40. You get 25% off your entire order, plus free shipping for a short period of time. So even if you don't get them for Father's Day, go order them now. Take advantage of that great deal and the great shipping. You can get even more great Dead Soxy socks. Deadsoxy.com, and as always, stay soxy. Something, you guys had the softball emergency pod when Jordy Bahl transferred out, and I was running the show, and you guys were in talk. I haven't really had a chance to say much about it. Josh, I know you haven't either, and I kind of wanted to bring it up because I don't think you guys are off base at all. I mean, I hear all the same stuff about, just wasn't a good fit. I mean, it never was from the beginning, and she made it for 2 years, and just wants to be happy. And I don't fault anybody for just saying, hey, I'm not enjoying this like I should be, and I want to be closer to family and friends. Like, I get it. It's cool. I think some of the things that are interesting to me is, like, being there at the celebration on Saturday, where it just had an odd feel because I haven't been around the softball team very much. I've covered football, almost exclusively, except for, Kelvin Sampson's basketball teams covered them quite heavily. A little bit of Jeff Capel, who's blocked us all for some reason still on Twitter, probably because of me. But, like, I kind of have this thing that I've always taken with me with football. When there's a tough loss and the fans are upset and they feel like that the players aren't trying hard enough or they don't care enough, and every time you talk to those players in the locker room, you've heard them say it 100 times, and I believe it being true. Like, no one cares about winning more than the football players. I mean, maybe not every guy, but overall in that roster, those guys that put in the work, that go to practice, that do the off-season workouts, like, they don't care more than you about winning. Like, you don't care more about winning than they do. Like, that's a universal truth to me. Like, you can't ever say, this team doesn't care.
There is like this fandom side of it though that I get with the Thunder and the Cubs and whoever. It's just like, I think it's a coping mechanism is what it is.
Sure,
and it makes you feel better. But then again, at the same time, and I think it's kind of funny too. It's like when we get up and and I'm sure that you see the same thing. You get on like Instagram in the morning before radio starts, and Stutzman or whoever, they're done with their workout.
Yeah.
Like when I'm getting up to go
it's
in,
like I told you,
which I consider very, very early. And it's like, you don't do that shit if you don't care.
Yeah. Or like, I've just finished my radio show like last week, and I walked from the office over to the indoor just to get some exercise, and I see Andrew Rame coming out of the door, and it's like, God, he's been getting killed the entire time I was on the radio, and I'm just going for a brisk walk. Like, what a jerk I feel like. But no, my point being, like, the players care. And the weird thing about softball and the dynamic between the fans and the players is I don't think that I'm sure this will be the same way with OU football if they ever win 3 national championships in a row, but just the fans not being able to appreciate what they just saw, like, it to me is so evident. It's like everything, like Joe Harris is up there giving a speech, and you have people standing up, like he's listing off their accomplishments, and they're just like, wait until next year. And it's just like, my God, they've won 3 in a row, and you guys are obsessing over next year's team.
I think that's also just fans in general, though. I think that
I don't believe that fans are that bad.
I don't think. Well, no, I'm not saying that they're that bad. I think that
they've lost all perspective. Like,
I don't know about that though. I think that they're just saying like
those people in the stadium had lost all perspective. I'm telling you.
Maybe you've lost perspective.
No, I don't believe. I believe I'm the only one with perspective right now in this conversation.
I just think that that's just what fans do. They look forward to next year. Now, if you want to make the argument that
but when Patty's like emotional and crying, and she has been over, and she's telling you like the pressure on this team has been intense and incredible, and like she's breaking down. It's like at some point, don't you have to look at yourselves and say, are we too much? Are we being a little much right now as a fan base?
This fan base is ready, is what I hear.
I did say
they're ready to make the move.
After the guy screamed at me, I was talking to Toby Baldwin after the game, and he was just kind of being like, "Hey, thanks for all you guys did this year. And the guy comes up from behind. He's like, he doesn't even cover softball. I was like, oh, thanks, dickhead. Thanks for interjecting yourself into my conversation. But it's just like stuff like that. It's just like, you guys have lost your minds a little bit over this whole thing. I
just think that's the way that people are expressing themselves. I don't think that they're seriously saying that if you don't win a national championship next year, it's a failure. Like, but
I'm saying they're
not going
61-1. They won 3 straight. How can you not focus on that versus all these shouts of wait till next year? And and it wasn't just like one shout. It was a constant rain of people saying things like that
because they're passionate.
Fans. Are they passionate or are they unrealistic? They're
both.
Fanatical.
Both. I think
agree
that
on
there's
that.
a little bit of both. Now, if you want to say that, like, I would agree with you that I think that there is a good portion of the fan base, and we've talked about this before, Carey, that probably doesn't appreciate enough what this year has been. Sure. Like 61-1, 53-game winning streak. I do think that, and it's kind of like what we talked about back in 2017.
And to have those 3 games where they were just dead. Like Texas, OSU, and Clemson, they were dead. Like, to make the comebacks they made in those games to continue the streak for it to become what it was. Yeah, I think you have a lot of people that don't understand. Like, it's almost like they're watching a Comic-Con movie, or not that's a bad, but like an MCU movie or something. Like, they think they're the Avengers or something. It's like not real because that shit doesn't happen like in real life.
It's like the offenses of 2017, 18, and 19 that everybody just came to expect. When we came in here every week going, that doesn't happen all the time. But people did become accustomed to seeing OU put up 50, 60, points a game.
Until Sam
and putting
hurt his
up
shoulder.
700, 800 yards a game. I'm talking about 17, 18, 19 with Baker.
Yeah.
And Kyler and Jalen. Like,
but I mean,
that run of quarterbacks was
2008,
incredible.
We'd never seen that type of offense before.
Sure.
I mean, that was the first monster offensively for Oklahoma with
and
Sam.
I think that the argument could be made too, though, that the Big 12 and defenses were OU was just better at the time.
They had dudes on defense and all. Like when you watch, even when you I
remember look at Sam's offensive line. All of them started in the NFL. I mean, it was kind of like what Baker went through in 2017.
But even if you watch like an OU game in 2010, like when they played Nebraska in that Big 12 championship game, they were knocking the shit out of people. That defense.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
like Tony Jefferson and Austin Box and
Travis Lewis. I mean,
Travis
on the list. They had a bunch of guys.
That's why they were number 1 going into 2011.
Yeah. And why didn't they finish number 1, Carey?
Because Landry Jones had a Well, first off,
it's interesting how God went against OU in 2011, but helped them out in 2023 in softball. Interesting.
Yeah.
Would you say he smited them in 2011? Was that a smiting?
I mean, there's anyway.
I think Eddie and I are too comfortable in that.
We could SoonerScoop correspondent Grace Lyons maybe could help us out on that.
She won't even answer my DMs. I'm not
Clip
trying
that.
to slide into them.
That's a standalone.
And I can't
audio.
even say I'm trying to give her money because that sounds even worse.
It's just to give her some money that I owe her.
I'm just trying to give the young woman money.
We know
for some business that we've done.
Right.
On the site.
Right.
No, I'm trying to give her business related to a paywall business that I run online.
Yeah. That's it. It's no big deal.
It seems so straightforward.
I do think, though, that the fan base just in general, I know what you're saying, Carey. I
just feel like there's a little loss of perspective, and I wish people would
imagine
take a step back a little bit.
I would imagine, though, that everybody that is yelling stuff like that at a celebration is, and I would imagine most people that go to a celebration like that probably either have young kids or are of the older demographic.
But isn't that kind of inevitable? Like, Alabama has no perspective on what football is.
Like I said,
right now. They don't know.
OU and Georgia fans are going to be that way in a couple more years if they keep winning.
Yep.
Like, it just, you get all these people that it's not really about the team anymore. It's about, making me feel better.
Yeah. I get to go.
And I think there's a lot of that with
OU
OU softball right now.
Yeah. I mean, think how good, if you want to keep it in the softball world, like, OU fans, like Oklahoma State fans, are having the greatest run in their softball sports history, and it feels like nothing because just down the road what Oklahoma's doing. I'm sure it's the same deal with Alabama and Auburn. Like, Auburn has had some great moments, won a national title in the last decade, or I guess, a little over last decade, but in the recent past. And they're a candle in the sun to what Alabama's done. So I'm sure that's just a brutal thing to accept.
No, I mean, it's one of those fine lines. It's like when you get so good, you're going to attract people that they're just rooting for your success rather than for you.
Well, and I think on the opposite end of that, you should get people that are rooting for their demise. Like,
oh, sure, yeah.
Half the people would lead you to believe online, which I don't think is as big as like
the
OU
got blown
softball fan or the OU athletic fan wants to make it out to be. It's like, yeah, there's a couple people, and I would say the bigger names out there, I think we know who we're talking about. Although Danny Cannell is a little bit of a baby back bitch. I don't think he really cares. He knows that he's going to get a little bit of a rise out of you. And it's a lot like Skip Bayless in the same regard of, I can't allow myself to let him get away with what he says. And then that fires me up, and then you fire off a tweet or you watch his stupid-ass television show, and it's just a cycle.
I did it last week. I was like, I kind of respect what Danny Cannell's doing because I know he's just trolling the shit out of OU fans, and he's acknowledged that. Like, I'll be fully honest. I like the Cover 3 pod. I listen to it. Like, I enjoy that. I think those guys do a nice job, but there's just no question. It's not his real take. It's not his real stance on OU softball. He knows he can piss you off.
It's something that he's reusing that he kind of fell into a few years ago, and now he's like, oh, OU fans are really sensitive online.
Right.
I'm going to put this out there and get a bunch of attention.
It's one of those things. It's just like the Barstool thing last summer. You can't try to piss everybody off, and they're like, they're super sensitive. No, you did it on purpose. Like, you called the dogs. Don't be surprised when they come. So, like, it's just one of those deals. But I thought some of the responses, Joe Klatt just going in on Danny Cannell was amazing.
Toby Rowland was amazing going in on him.
When you've gone too far for Toby Rowland, you've gone too far. Like, let's just be – Toby, one of the nicest people I've ever encountered.
Yeah, I mean, Toby, that's as much venom as I've ever seen from Toby.
Yeah.
I've known him for a long time.
I think there is like a line where you're having fun and you're trolling, and then it's like you're really taking away from like one of the greatest accomplishments in the history of college athletics. Like, there is an enough is enough type feel for that.
At some point, you're giving credence to people sword fighting without arms. I mean, it's just like on Twitter, those people, like, you're getting FSU troll fans and OU troll fans fighting with each other, and then you're saying, well, look at all the people that are saying that we celebrate too much. It's no one that matters.
No. And I think that, like, there is a level that those people they like the interaction more than anything. Like, I don't think that, like, some of the USC people, it's like, at the end of the day, nobody cares. Like, you're never going to really truly cross paths in life.
What's amazing is,
just, I think arguing.
The USC stuff just made OU fans feel better because they just needed to get some stuff off their chest. I think most of that is off their chest, but now you have, like, some of these USC fans that are still, like, trying to collect receipts and things like that. It's just like, you're just on here to troll. And I think we can all agree that Facebook, or I'm turning it around, Twitter is a lot more like Facebook than it's ever been now. I mean, it's a lot of people.
Let it to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's who you follow, but the problem is now someone puts you in, like a media organization puts you in your mentions, in their mentions, and then you're in this endless cycle that you can't get out of, and you got to mute a conversation or whatever. Like, people don't know how to untag anyone. So you feel like there's all this stuff going around. And I asked that question. I was like, okay, I guess I haven't followed this that closely, but exactly who ripped on the OU players for being too emotional? Nobody could really give me an answer. It was like, well, this one fan said this, and Danny Cannell said that, and that was it. Like, that's all it was.
I think that there was a couple people in the softball community that said some stuff, but
the Michigan coach upset some people.
Yeah, and that was more to do, I think, about the umpiring in the game than it was like actually where the game is. There was all that other.
There was very much a third strike call that should have happened that didn't happen. Well, right before she tweeted that.
umpiring and stuff. I mean, they just weren't very good. So it really didn't end up mattering, though.
So anyway, yeah. I mean, look, I just want people to have perspective. I mean, and just I don't think it's all OU fans, and I don't think it's indicative of OU fans in general.
It's fans.
Insert fans,
any school.
It's fans that root for a dominant team. To me, there's a difference there. Like I said, they're rooting for the success and not for the players. If the players screw up and lose, they're hurting their success, so they get pissed off.
Do you think that there is like a, and this might be like a grander conversation to be had, but it's like, I wonder if it's become like that because people don't necessarily, like there is this divide between the college athlete and the fan because of NIL, because of things that prevent the fan from developing that relationship with somebody for 3 or 4 years.
The innocence.
But then again, I say that, and somebody like a Grace Lyons, who we were joking about earlier, like she's been in Norman for just as long as anybody here over the recent 5-year stretch of Oklahoma dominance in softball. So maybe I'm kind of talking myself out of that. I don't know. I guess, does it just come down to wins and losses? Is that all that matters at the end of the day?
I don't know. I mean,
I think for a lot of people, they would say yes, and they would say yes without even truly caring.
I actually thought about this the other day. Like, I think it's okay and it's good and it's healthy to have a little bit of a wall between the fan and the player, even in college. Like, it's just like the Thunder. I remember Trammell wrote a bunch of articles about little old ladies who love the Thunder and stuff like that, and like they saw them as their grandkids and stuff like that. Like, just they're gonna play a sport, they're gonna win or lose, and cheer them on or boo them. Like, you're entitled to do either one. But when it gets into I want to have a personal relationship with that guy playing a sport, that's where it gets weird, and that's where I think it turns from something that has a little bit of innocence to it to something creepy.
It's not just a fan thing.
There's media that way
that have
too.
that problem as well. So, but it is
because I mean it's just like with Jordy and her stuff, and whether you want to call it mental health or whatever. Like, I think there is that pressure, and that pressure is made because fans want a piece of you.
Yeah,
and you feel their expectations, and they're going to be upset if you're not good. I think if everybody just was like, look, this is your side, this is my side. Let's just play some sports and enjoy it, or be pissed that we didn't win.
It's one of the good and bad parts of social media. I mean, somebody said it on the board. Like, I can't imagine what the UCLA team was going through in the 88-game winning streak and the pressure that came with that. I don't think that you logged on every day and people were saying, incredibly good things, which can be a bad thing.
I mean, can you imagine
or the incredibly
Bill Walton,
negative stuff?
The Bill Walton stuff then? I mean, like,
yeah.
I don't know if you've been watching that docuseries.
I watched the first 2 episodes. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
But, like, his relationship with John Wooden, like, all that stuff would have been out in the public and about smoking marijuana.
Sure.
And, whether, and, like, with Portland, his later ones talk about Portland, how the fans hated him because he could never play and stuff, and he never experienced stuff like that.
No doubt. It's good and bad. I mean, I think that, obviously I've kind of become in a place just career-wise because of social media, but I understand that there is a big negative to it. There's a big downside to all of it as well.
I will say this. It's odd to me that, I think Brent embraces, like, media coverage and for people to know his players. Like, that's why he did that, big everybody can talk to the media thing. He thinks it's a good thing if players' stories get out there. But most people are like, less media. We control the narrative. We control our players. We control the social media. And it's almost like fans have never felt more at a distance. And I don't know if that's the way it really is, but that's the way it feels like, because fans are more at a distance and they don't know really, understand the players or know who they are. It's like it causes everything to get out of whack.
It's almost to the extent to that the universities almost do this to themselves because they do kind of gatekeep as far as like who you're getting to know. If that makes sense.
It's like they're playing hard to get.
Almost a little bit. I think that, like, we would love to have some of these guys come in here and sit and do podcasts and that kind of stuff. And we can through NIL, which is a great way of getting to know the player. But there are some things that are kind of off limits that maybe a university doesn't want to be said by some of the players that could be outspoken.
Yeah, sure.
Which I get. Like, I understand.
Oh,
at the
they
same
were
time,
they were more freaked out about media doing NIL stuff than anything else when this first started.
Right. And I think that it's kind of interesting that, like, well, not interesting, just in terms of, like, I wish that players could be open. Like, it's always kind of funny, and this might be a bad comparison, but I've always kind of found it funny when a kid, gets picked up and has a sack of weed or something on him, and people go absolutely bananas about that. And it's like, if you had any idea what these guys were doing during the offseason or, on a Tuesday night before a game, I'm not saying that everybody's going out and partying, but it just is always funny to me that people are so surprised what happens on a college campus and then how shocked they are when they find out, oh, this person was drinking on what night? It's like, if you only knew half of what was going on.
Well, and it's one of those things, like, they're still just college guys.
Right.
Like, they're not different than you probably were in college or someone you knew in college.
I wish people could talk about it more openly, I guess is my
Yeah.
point.
I was a jackass. Like, I'm not judging any of these guys for what they get out and get into. I mean, that's now to a point. Now you get into some real dangerous stuff. That's a different conversation. But, like, being surprised that college guys are going to act like other college guys,
right?
What are we talking about? Yeah, guys. Now, I don't want to lighten this too much, but it doesn't have to be today. But I've been checking out the old Apple reviews.
Really?
There's some strong work out there in the universe. So
is there?
Yeah, we got a 1-star.
Hell yeah.
We got some 5 stars.
Read the 1-star. I want to hear the 1-star.
like to hate.
This is going to sound super self-serving that we start there.
Oh, no.
It's
1
more
star.
Josh. Why won't
They
you
only
let
like
Josh
Josh?
talk?
Josh talking recruiting is the only reason and I can't read the rest of it. Please don't change. Already too much talking about nothing.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, so
Maybe Dr. Kevorkian needs to visit your home.
okay, and this is a perfect one to follow that with Eddie mentioning Dr. Kevorkian. Why so profesh? Love everything new with On 3, but this most recent pod is so buttoned up. Hope y'all don't feel pressure to have some hard segmented show now. Let it loose, boys. It's what the people want.
Very much so.
Yeah, so you can tell we all feel pretty tight. But yeah, there are. There's a Robert Meacham reference here from 2022.
Wow.
God, how long has it been since we read one of these?
It's been a minute since we've done a review. I know that.
Oh yeah, this is the last one I remember reading. Gabe and Teddy are the best. The Oklahoma Breakdown podcast wipes the floor with your podcast.
I think I saw that one.
Bottom of the barrel OU podcast.
Hell yeah, I like that. Well, I don't know
love
about
hate.
that. I
Get
mean,
it.
I don't think any of us have been fired from radio and still do a podcast.
Why do you do that to me?
What do you mean?
If it softens any of the blow, I've never been asked to be on radio, so
Sure.
we're fine. Yeah,
And I'm probably going to be fired eventually, but I mean, not right now.
Oh no, that just happened.
I don't even know how to get to the ratings on MacBook.
There is one that the title is just in quotations. You're not my dad. Love my Oklahoma propaganda podcast.
No, it's way too often a discussion on the boards, and it's like what I talked about earlier. I mean, we want to deliver content in a lot of different ways because everybody consumes it differently, and no one is ever going to be happy with the same. We do, the three of us, we started this, and we did it for ourselves. We didn't even know it would be that popular or that it would, drive subscriptions and all that stuff. We just wanted to be able to come on here and bullshit, basically. And it's like, that's why we do this. Like, we're not going to stop doing that. Like, if you want a buttoned-up pod where it's just, I just yelled at a guy on the board because he was like, it was nice to hear Josh and Eddie talk about recruiting without someone else interrupting them. It's like, dumbass, it was just a 24-minute video on
Why
recruiting.
did he call Bob out like that? That's
I don't
hard.
know.
Bob catching
George,
strays.
I'm sorry,
that's
George.
messed up, guys. Yeah, that's wrong.
Sorry for that OU softball amount of pressure that's on your shoulders now.
Yeah, it's something, and I've said it. There's probably several people that have heard me say this before. Something Dr. Pacheco, the late great Dr. Pacheco from the board said forever. He was like, this message board's not going to be perfect for everybody. It's about being as good as it can be for as many people as it can be. And that's the way I look at almost everything we do. Like, because we're never going to do the podcast just the way you want it done. We're not going to do YouTube just the way you want it done. It's going to be the thing that we feel like connects with the most people in the best way possible. And we've built this podcast doing exactly what we're doing, like just talking about.
And it continues to grow.
Yes, obviously Oklahoma athletics is the baseline. We know that nobody would be here if we didn't talk OU sports. Like, we get that. But at the same time, a lot of it is personality driven. I get people all the time like, oh, my daughter did the same thing you talked about. Or Eddie is, somebody's connecting with Eddie in the fact that he has never smoked and those sort of things. So,
right.
Yeah, so that they understand.
I wonder where you're going there.
The life he's had to live with a smoke-free existence. So, those kind of things happen. But I don't know. Like, it's just one of those things where I don't understand why people. If you don't like a part, it's not gonna hurt my feelings. Skip past it. That's fine. Like, it's just different for everybody. I think people
we're
like
okay
different things.
with a 4.8 out of 5 with over 1,000
ratings. That's strong.
I have always found the person that like complains about something that they listen to.
Yeah,
a very fascinating character in life.
Well, I mean, I told the guy today, like, go away then. Like, if you're gonna keep bitching about this, somebody that changed their name on On3, I can tell. I know exactly who it is. It's just like. You're gonna keep doing this. Just we don't want you as a listener anymore. Like, well, that's all. Like, I mean, I'm throwing my hands up. Like, I'm just sick of reading that shit. Like,
literally
just sick
threw
of
his hands
it.
up. Yeah, but it is. There is. I kind of lost where I was going to go with that. I got so caught up in Carey literally throwing his hands up that I lost my train of thought. But
everybody has what their version of perfect is.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, that's all good.
And most people that complain about it want to listen to the podcast that no longer exists because no one was listening to it.
Yeah. Well,
or not enough.
That's what I was going to say, because I get the same thing on Twitter. People are like, why are you talking about this? Don't follow me. You don't have to. No one made you. I didn't ask you to. Like, you're here, and sometimes I'm going to talk about shit that's not OU recruiting. It may be Arsenal soccer. It probably is. Deal with it. Like, if that bothers you that much, that's a you thing. That's not a me thing.
Those people, the people that complain about that kind of stuff, are second only to, which I find to be the most interesting breed of people on Twitter, the responder or the replier to an official team account. Because I just every time like Texas or OU or whoever has a bad day and they put out the final score or whatever, and then you have those fans that some are trolling, but some are dead serious. I truly think that they feel like,
the best that we're
Porter Moser or whoever, Skip Johnson or whoever's going through the team account mentions, like, oh, you know what? That's a good idea. Or, that poor person that has to run the social media for those teams. They're going to go down to Brent and say, hey, Sooner fan 42069, probably need to run the ball a little bit more in the second half. Let's expand that.
My favorite, I mean, there's to one up that is when it's on Instagram. Yeah. Because nobody's on Instagram to debate sports. They're there to look at their hot friends or, see what, people are up to, whose kids are doing what.
I love it. But that's all part of the process. It truly is.
And again, we're not bitching at the fans. It's just like we all live in the same fishbowl. Like,
yeah,
we have the same frustrations that a lot of you do. And it's just like it's like the invention of the Karen. It's like the online Karens.
We're talking about maybe 5% of interactions.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very small. Like, I enjoy most. We couldn't do what we do if it was the majority of people that just bitched about everything. Like, but there are some people that you will just never please, and you have to.
And then always want to tell you how to run your business.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm sure if we talk to any, service-oriented business owner, it'd be the same.
Sure.
If not worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, because I know when we get together for like publisher conferences, it's the same. It's not like it's a singular thing to Oklahoma.
Sure.
That's just part of it, and it's part of working on the internet. Like, there is an anonymity that gives people even more freedom to voice any little thing that might bother them.
Yeah.
Like, rather than just being like, yeah, I don't like that, but do I really care? No.
I mean, I'm just not that guy. Like the guy that came here and did our epoxy floors did a horrible job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go online and just bash him because I saw other people that did.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not in my nature to try and burn somebody to the ground. I don't know. This is getting a little mopey for me.
I've never been the Yelp review guy.
No.
It's hard for me.
Now, the only time I've ever done one was A, if it was really good, or B, if the guy like asked me to. Like, deliberately was like, hey, would you do that for me? Like a small business.
Do people still ask that to give Yelp reviews? Is that still a thing?
I don't know about Yelp. I think Google is what I usually follow.
Yeah, Google I think is what people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll usually say, yeah, I'll do it, and then I never do it. So.
And even, here's the thing, too. Like, if you're a business owner, and this is not for us, I don't care. I'm not going to. If somebody wants to, I don't even think we can get a Google review. But, like, if you see, like, a business owner has gone through and, like, said, hey, I just wanted to say that we tried our best to take care of you at, until your wife threw the slushie at my child, and we said we'd part ways. Like, I like it when the business owner goes in and tries to explain, like, we tried to do our best, but we couldn't make this
Now,
person
when
happy.
I do see that, that's when I'll go in and say, yeah, this person sexually molested me.
God. See, I get in trouble for trolling our neighborhood page. Like,
HOA page?
Yes. Tiffany's like, you were such an
next
idiot.
door?
Oh, my God. Tiffany's like, I can't even go on there. I don't even know who I shouldn't talk to in the neighborhood because you've probably pissed someone off.
You're going to get your name removed from the pool.
It's
the neighborhood pool.
Yeah, the key card might not work.
Yeah, it's not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
They'll put up a spike strip for your golf cart.
Exactly. Oh, it's a very real possibility because there are some people in that neighborhood who I don't think know who I am, but they know my posting and they don't care for me at all. Yeah,
I like that. That makes for interesting communication.
I just yell at my neighbors on the radio every morning when they've disappointed me because we don't have an HOA, and that's. I don't want to get into that. You guys saw that guy that was trending about bitching about his not having an HOA in the guy's house.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It took on quite a lot.
That's kind of where it all started, wasn't it?
I think so. All right. Camp tomorrow. We're going to try and do something along the lines of what we did on Tuesday to make all you people happy about us interrupters on the pod. So, keep an eye out for that. Even if not, maybe we can do something on the schedule when it gets released tonight. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I just think that there may be some surprises, but I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to blow us away. There might have been some stuff come out here in the last 10, 20 minutes I haven't seen. So,
no, I mean, I think that you can count on seeing Alabama. It's going to be really interesting. I think that, Florida and Missouri are going to probably be on there. Tennessee and everything else is going to be, kind of where you're going. And, those will be, it'll be fun. It's going to be something new. And I think that that's probably the most exciting part about it. That's why I'm so excited about going to Provo this year, going back to Cincinnati for the first time to cover a game, that kind of stuff.
Well, at least the SEC knows what teams are in their conference next year.
There's a very real chance Provo could be my first OU game in like more than a decade.
Really?
I'm giving that real consideration.
And see, that's the thing. There's been so much. I don't know if it's like QAnonness on our board about BYU and game days and what you can drink or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've had other people tell me that you can drink on campus on game days.
I have no idea.
I got to look into that because I kind of got into a fight this morning with somebody about that.
You were unsure of your stance and just argued it
No,
anyway?
I just was kind of repeating. I guess I was QAnon myself because I was just repeating what people on the board said.
We do that, people. So you're listening. Like, we listen to you. We hear you.
I don't
and
really
sometimes you put us
know.
in bad
Like, I don't
spots.
know. I mean, the board's making it out like there's only 3 bars in the entire town of Provo.
I could see that. I could buy that.
I don't know that I've ever even
Salt
been
Lake City's supposed to be a lot of fun.
to Salt Lake City. Like, I don't think I've even been
I think
to the
Salt Lake
airport.
City is a time. I mean, I always see it on diners, drive-ins, and dives. They got some food there. I think that's where that car show is. Ken Diggett. I think that's in Salt Lake City. Anyway. All right. I think we've run out of things to whine about or whatever today. So I really do appreciate all you guys. And I mean, Josh, Eddie, Bob, George. George is stuck at the longest Regents meeting, I think, in the history of the world. So he's hoping to bring back some gems from that, and hopefully will. And Bob's out there keeping us on track. He'll have more stuff with the SEC when it is released. So even if you're listening to this after the announcement, just check the site. We'll have the full coverage for you. And keep checking that YouTube page. It's just youtube.com/SoonerScoop. We're right there. Go subscribe, like, and we'll keep providing the content. And the more we grow, the more content that you'll get. So really looking forward to it. We'll see where we go next week as camps are done. And we'll have a lot more to talk about with the SEC and the finalization of camps and all that. So appreciate everybody listening. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 Podcast from SoonerScoop.com.